The wide receiver is the focal point of the passing attack, as it's very hard to be a threat through the air without good pass catchers. There are many great wide receivers in the league, but who is actually the best? In this video, I'm going to be ranking my top 50 wide receivers heading into the 2025 NFL season. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop a like and subscribe if you're new. Subscribe takes just a second and it really helps me out. Thank you, and let's get started. Number 50, Matthew Golden, Green Bay Packers. Golden is a super talented deep threat out of Texas and was the 23rd overall pick in this year's draft by the Packers. He was my wide receiver 4 in the 2025 class, and I had a true first round grade on him. He took over the wide receiver 1 role at Texas, and defenses had no choice but to game plan for his game-breaking big play ability. Golden ran a 4.3 40-yard dash, and that speed shows on the field. He can take the top off the defense any play. However, he is not without his flaws. His overall hands consistency isn't great, as he had a 6.5% drop rate in 2024, and he's also dealt with injuries in the past, missing time in both 2022 and 2023. Plus, he is a rookie, so we'll have to see if he can play as well in the NFL as he did in college, though I believe he can. Overall, while unproven, Golden is a really good receiver who can easily climb up this list as early as this season. Number 49, Luther Burden, Chicago Bears. We've got back-to-back rookies here, but I think Burden is a better overall receiver than Golden. Burden fell to the second round due to a down season in 2024, but I think that was mostly due to factors outside of his control, most notably his quarterback play being complete ass. Burden was my wide receiver 3 in this class, ahead of Golden, and I thought he should have gone in the first round. He's an excellent slot receiver that has the speed, hands, and route running necessary for the position. I do think he needs to work on his run blocking, as it's subpar for a slot receiver, and he also sometimes has a tendency to let the ball come to him rather than attack it. But overall, Burden is a really good player who, if he can prove himself in year 1, can easily push himself higher up on this list. Number 48, Rome Odunze, Chicago Bears. Odunze was the 9th overall pick in the 2024 draft and entered into a crowded receiver room that already contained DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, meaning that Odunze's production was limited. However, I still think he showed a lot of good stuff and had a few really good games, including a 112-yard game against the Colts in Week 3, a 104-yard game against the Cardinals in Week 9, and a 2-touchdown game against the 49ers in Week 14. Odunze finished his rookie season with 54 receptions for 734 yards and 3 touchdowns, finishing 5th among rookies in yards and tied for 9th in touchdowns. I think Bears fans were expecting a bit more production out of their 9th overall pick, and I was as well, but it's hard to get targets as a wide receiver 3 with a rookie quarterback, and, well, let's just say unideal coaching. I feel like Odunze still has a lot of upside he has yet to reach, and he will be entering 2025 as the primary outside receiver opposite DJ Moore. With the year 2 Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson now as the head coach, I think Odunze could have a year 2 breakout season. He still does need to prove himself, but the upside is absolutely there. Number 47, Xavier Worthy, Kansas City Chiefs. Worthy was drafted 28th overall in 2024, and in the regular season, he was kind of underwhelming, his best game being in Week 17 where he had 8 receptions for 79 yards and a touchdown. Worthy finished his rookie season with 59 receptions for 638 yards and 6 touchdowns, and also had another 3 touchdowns on the ground. He finished just behind Odunze in terms of yards, as he was 6th among rookies, while Odunze, as mentioned, was 5th. So why does Worthy rank above Odunze? Well, the main reason for that is because of Worthy's playoff performances, where, and I am not exaggerating when I say this, Worthy looked like a mini Tyreek Hill out there. In 3 playoff games, Worthy caught 19 passes for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a 157-yard, 2-touchdown game in the Super Bowl. When it mattered most, Worthy was the player that stepped up. Worthy was the only, and I mean only, reason that the Chiefs didn't lose by 40 in the Super Bowl. Extrapolate his playoff success over a 17-game season, and you have a 1,626 yard, 17 touchdown season. This is a very small sample size of success, and there is a chance that Worthy can't build on it in 2025, but he has showcased that that level of play is in there, and I wouldn't be surprised if he absolutely explodes next season. Number 46, Darnell Mooney, Atlanta Falcons. A former 5th round pick back in 2020, Mooney has never really been anything amazing. He did have a 1,000-yard season in 2021, but was never able to replicate that success in Chicago. However, that was mostly due to having Justin Fields as his quarterback. In 2023, Mooney had his worst season yet, putting up just 414 yards and 1 touchdown in 15 games. That year, the Bears brought in DJ Moore as the Bears' new wide receiver 1, pushing Mooney to the 2, which is about the worst place to be in a Justin Fields-led offense. Fields rarely looked at his second option, and there were many players where Mooney was open, but Fields couldn't find him. But when Mooney went to Atlanta and finally got somewhat competent quarterback play, he arguably had the best season of his career, putting up 992 yards and 5 touchdowns, setting career highs in touchdowns, yards per reception, and yards per route run. He transitioned from more of a slot role in Chicago to a more balanced role in Atlanta, playing both from the slot and on the outside, and I think that really worked for him. He's always been a good receiver in my opinion, and while he may not be some incredible wide receiver 2 or anything, he certainly is worthy of a spot in the top 50. Number 45, Deebo Samuel, Washington Commanders. Samuel has always been kind of overrated in my opinion, but after last season, I think people have realized that he definitely isn't the same player he used to be, and now is mostly known for being a Popeye's biscuit away from converting to tight end. Samuel was not very good in 2024, putting up just 670 yards and 3 touchdowns, setting career lows in yards after the catch per reception and yards per route run. He also had an 8.9% drop rate, the highest since 2021, and while he's always been a rushing threat throughout his career, he wasn't in 2024, as he put up a career low 3.2 yards per carry, a career low 2.33 yards after contact per carry, didn't have a single run over 15 yards, and had a 0% breakaway rate. San Francisco let Samuel go for a reason. The only reason Samuel still ranks where he does as the 45th best receiver in the league is because I think with a new team and a new system, there's an opportunity to get Samuel going as a nice gadget player slash fun wide receiver 2 type. But all of the top 15 conversations with Samuel are long over. Number 44, Tetairoa McMillan, Carolina Panthers. McMillan was the 8th overall pick by the Panthers in this year's draft, and for good reason. He was my wide receiver 2 in this class, and was a true blue chip prospect. McMillan has the potential to be one of the best X receivers in the league. He's 6'5", 212 pounds with a huge catch radius. He's great in contested catch situations, but is also a surprisingly good route runner and yards after catch threat for a big guy. My only real negative point about McMillan is that he had a 7.7% drop rate in 2024. That and the fact that he still is a rookie. But overall, I think McMillan is a great receiver with insane upside and could absolutely be near the top 20 or even higher by the end of the season. Number 43, Travis Hunter, Jacksonville Jaguars. Spoiler alert, Hunter is the final rookie on this list, and the placement between him and McMillan alone should indicate how close these two are, but Hunter ended up being my wide receiver 1 in this class. These are truly special talent with elite ball skills that you will find on very few players in history. His overall athletic ability is amazing, and his corner skills really show up when playing receiver. However, playing both sides does have its flaws, as Hunter's routes and overall technique isn't nearly as refined as some of the other receivers in this class. Also, it's hard to know how much of an impact he'll make as a receiver if he does end up playing both sides. I doubt he's playing every snap on offense and defense every game in the NFL. But from a pure talent perspective, Hunter is incredible and now just has to go up there and prove he can perform at the NFL level. Number 42, Jayden Reed, Green Bay Packers. In the absolute chaos that is the Packers wide receiver room, Reed is currently the number 1, though I don't think he's a true wide receiver 1 from a talent level. He still is really good though, and there's a reason he's number 42 out of the hundreds of wide receivers in the NFL. In 2024, Reed put up 55 receptions for 857 yards and 6 touchdowns, which led all Packers receivers. He does most of his work from the slot, as he's a good route runner and shifty after the catch. He also had a surprisingly good 66.7% contested catch rate, going 8 for 12, much better than his 3 for 12 last year. However, his biggest problem is his hands, as he had a 15.4% drop rate in 2024, which was tied for 3rd among receivers. Reed is a good slot receiver and can play his role well, but he does have his limitations. Number 41, Marvin Harrison Jr., Arizona Cardinals. Harrison had monumental expectations entering the league, as he was not only the 4th overall pick in the 2024 draft, was not only Hall of Fame receiver Marvin Harrison's son, but was also thought to be one of the best wide receiver prospects of the century by many people, including myself. And to those people, Harrison kind of disappointed, putting up 62 receptions for 885 yards and 8 touchdowns. He came in 4th in rookies in yards and tied for 2nd in touchdowns. People were expecting an insane season from Marv, but they didn't quite get that. However, I think Harrison showed a lot of flashes, and I don't think his relative lack of production compared to other rookies was entirely his fault. There were plays where Harrison got open but just wasn't looked at. The most notable example is during week 1, when Harrison got himself wide open down the field, but Kyler Murray didn't see it. Harrison only had a 54.4 reception percentage, but I think that was more Kyler's fault than Harrison's. Harrison had just 1 drop the entire season and converted on 42.1% of his contested catch opportunities, which is pretty good for NFL standards, especially for a rookie. Harrison does rank lower on the list because at the end of the day, he simply didn't produce as much as he probably should have, and there were some games where he just kind of went silent, but I think the talent is still very much in there, and he just needs to prove himself before he climbs up higher on this list. Number 40, Jauan Jennings, San Francisco 49ers. Jennings was the wide receiver 3 on the 49ers for a while, but he effectively had to take over as the number 1 after Brandon Ayuk got injured and Deebo Samuel kept declining, and he did it surprisingly well. Jennings had by far his best season, putting up 975 yards and 6 touchdowns, both career highs. He had just a 4.9% drop rate, the lowest of his career, and converted on 62.5% of his contested catch opportunities, going 20 for 32, which is really good. Jennings broke out in week 3 against the Rams, putting up one of the best wide receiver performances of the season by catching 11 passes for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns, and from there, he was very consistent and reliable for the 49ers. Jennings won't blow you away with anything, and is honestly not a true wide receiver 1, more of a wide receiver 2 type, but he has emerged as a very capable receiver and should be really good next to Brandon Ayuk in 2024. Number 39, Cooper Kupp, Seattle Seahawks. Kupp's placement on this list might surprise some, but he has been declining ever since that incredible 2021 season. He's still a good slot receiver, but definitely has been slowing down. Kupp put up 710 yards on 67 receptions, along with 6 touchdowns in 12 games in 2024, which is good production, but notice the 12 games. That's been the problem with Kupp, availability, and that's the main reason he ranks 39th on the list and not higher. Kupp hasn't played a full season since 2021, playing just 9 games in 2022 and 12 games in both 2023 and 2024. He hasn't shown he can stay healthy, and that's a problem. Talent-wise, he's probably better than the 39th receiver in the league, but his injury concerns are what's dropping him. Hopefully he can find a way to stay healthy all throughout the season because he's still an impactful player when on the field, but being now 32 years old, I'm just not sure that's possible. Number 38, Josh Downs, Indianapolis Colts. A 3rd-round pick back in 2023, Downs has been an immediate impact for the Colts and is one of the better slot receivers in the league. Downs finished the 2024 season with 72 receptions for 803 yards and 5 touchdowns, and that was with 40-year-old Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson, the most inaccurate quarterback in the league. He even finished with the 12th highest PFF grade among receivers at 84.8. Downs is a smaller player, just 5'9" and 171 pounds, but it's all the tools needed to be a good slot guy. He's got good speed, separation ability, and hands consistency. He's also been surprisingly good in contested catch situations for his size, converting at around 46% of his opportunities in both 2023 and 2024. Downs has become a staple of this offense and is one of the better wide receiver 2s in the league. And to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if he overtakes Michael Pittman as the wide receiver 1 in a year or two. Number 37, Michael Pittman Jr., Indianapolis Colts. Speaking of Michael Pittman, here he is. The former 2nd-round pick back in 2020 has been a consistent, reliable receiver throughout his career. And while he's not an incredible wide receiver 1, he is certainly someone that many teams would love to have on their roster. Pittman did have a bit of a dip in production in 2024, putting up 808 yards and 3 touchdowns, compared to the 1,152 yards and 4 touchdowns from 2023, but I think that's mostly due to the rise of Josh Downs and the fact that his quarterback play was really bad. I don't think of Pittman any less this year than I did last year. Like I said, he's been very reliable and hasn't had a drop rate above 5% since 2021, and has had a contested catch rate below 50% since 2020, his rookie season. Overall, Pittman isn't anything special, but has been very good ever since he was drafted, and I expect that to continue. Number 36, Stefon Diggs, New England Patriots. Diggs is a pretty tough player to rank because he was actually pretty good for the Texans in that wide receiver 2 role, putting up 496 yards and 3 touchdowns in 8 games before tearing his ACL, ending his season. Considering the fact that he's been slowing down ever since 2022, I just don't know how the 31-year-old is going to come back from this. Even in 2024, he was on pace for the lowest yardage of his career since 2018, and also had the lowest yards per reception and yards per route run since 2018. All of his numbers have been declining the past 2 years, and it's clear age is catching up to him. I still think Diggs is a good receiver and still has a lot of good traits. The hands, contested catch ability, the yards after catch, that's all been good and hasn't shown signs of getting worse. But again, being 31 years old, coming off the torn ACL, I really don't have a choice but to put Diggs here, even though I would like to put him higher. I'm hoping he can return to his 2022 form in New England as their wide receiver 1, but I'm just not sure that's possible. Number 35, Khalil Shakir, Buffalo Bills. A 5th-round pick back in 2022, 2022, Shakir emerged as a talented slot receiver in 2023, enough to where the Bills were comfortable letting Diggs go and making Shakir the number one. And while he obviously isn't an amazing number one or anything, he played his role well, putting up 76 receptions for 821 yards and 4 touchdowns. The most notable thing about Shakir is his reception percentage, as it has been above 80% the past 2 seasons. Shakir was first in reception percentage in 2023 and 5th in 2024. A big reason for that is Shakir's hands, as he's at a drop rate of under 3% the past 2 seasons. Shakir has played a very specific role, a short to intermediate slot receiver that doesn't really pose much of a threat deep. His average depth of target was just 5.6 yards in 2024, and because he hasn't really shown he can be more than that, that does bring him down a bit, but ultimately Shakir plays his role really well, and there's a reason the Bills let him be their number one. Number 34, Jerry Jeudy, Denver Broncos. Jeudy is a bit of a tough conversation because obviously he was great in 2024, but that was the first time he really broke out. He was just alright with the Broncos and obviously didn't live up to his first round draft pick. But in 2024, Jeudy was really good, catching 90 passes for 1,229 yards and 4 touchdowns. He ended up finishing 6th out of all receivers in yards. His most notable game was easily his revenge game against the Broncos, as he put up 235 yards on them, the second most single-game receiving yards in 2024. He did still have a 10% drop rate and a 38.1% contested catch rate, 2 things that have been a problem for him throughout his career, but overall, he was definitely better in 2024. I can't rank Jeudy too high because this is his first season of being an actual good receiver, but I do recognize how good he was, and if he can repeat that success this year, he will climb up this list. Number 33, Rashee Rice, Kansas City Chiefs. Rice was a second-round pick back in 2023 and had a really good rookie season, putting up 938 yards and 7 touchdowns. In 2024, he looked to continue that success and was actually really good before tearing his ACL in Week 4, ending his season. In the 3 full games he played, Rice put up 288 yards and 2 touchdowns. If he hadn't torn his ACL and continued playing at the level he was before he got injured, he would be much higher on the list, but we just don't know if he's going to be the same player upon his return. He's only 25 years old, so I'm much more confident he'll return to form than, say, Stefon Diggs, but at the end of the day, Rice needs to prove himself again before I place him higher on the list. Number 32, Jameson Williams, Detroit Lions. Entering the top 32 now, we've got Jameson Williams. For the first 2 seasons of his career, Williams actually did virtually nothing and seemed like a disappointing 12th overall pick. But in 2024, Williams finally broke out, eclipsing 1,000 yards and scoring 7 touchdowns. He also had by far his lowest drop rate, just 3.3%, and was also pretty good at contested catch situations. Williams is a true deep threat. He has game-changing speed and can take the top off the defense any play. However, that is kind of his only thing. He doesn't really have a large route tree and isn't nearly as effective when he's not in that true Z role, but he is damn good at what he does, and the Lions offense wouldn't be the same without him. Number 31, Zay Flowers, Baltimore Ravens. Flowers was the 22nd overall pick back in 2023, and in just 2 years has grasped a firm hold on the Ravens wide receiver 1 role. Flowers got 74 passes for 1,059 yards and 4 touchdowns, and that included 5 100-plus yard games. Flowers is a smaller receiver, just 5'9", but he's incredibly shifty and a pain to bring down once he gets the ball in his hands. He's also converted on 50% of his contested catch opportunities in both seasons of his career, which is pretty good for someone of his size. His 6.3% drop rate in 2024 also isn't bad, though there is room for improvement. Considering his quarterback threw 41 touchdowns this season, I would have liked to see Flowers find the end zone a bit more, but overall, I think Flowers is a really good receiver and has proven to be a first-round pick well spent. Number 30, Jakobi Meyers, Las Vegas Raiders. I think Meyers has been underrated for a while now, but people might finally realize just how good he is after he had the best season of his career despite incredibly lackluster quarterback play. Meyers caught 87 passes for 1,027 yards, both career highs, as well as 4 touchdowns. Despite having 126 targets, Meyers didn't have a single drop all year. Out of all the receivers with 0 drops this season, Meyers had by far the most targets. The next closest guy was AJ Brown with 97 targets. Meyers had quite literally the best hands in the league last season. He played mostly slot receiver at New England, but ever since coming to Vegas, he's been more of an outside guy, and it's worked out well. Meyers is a great number 2 option behind Brock Bowers, and overall, I think he's a really good receiver. Number 29, Calvin Ridley, Tennessee Titans. Ridley hasn't quite returned to his 2020 form since his gambling suspension, but he has had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2023 and 2024, and in his first year in Tennessee was one of the only reasons their offense defense wasn't the worst in the league. Despite some pretty awful quarterback play, Ridley managed to put up 1,017 yards and 4 touchdowns, and even had a career-high 15.9 yards per reception. However, Ridley's drop problems showed up worse than ever, as he had an 11.1% drop rate, a career high. But Ridley is a good route runner and can make some explosive plays. He's not a high-end wide receiver 1 or anything, but him just being there in Tennessee is huge for Cam Ward, and I think he should be able to help Ward out a lot. Number 28, Courtland Sutton, Denver Broncos. Sutton is coming off probably the best overall season of his career, catching a career-high 81 passes for 1,081 yards and 8 touchdowns. Sutton is a true X receiver. His 6'4" frame makes it difficult for corners to match up with him, and he makes some of the most ridiculous catches you'll ever see. His ability to high point the ball and just moss defenders is truly amazing. However, he has shown that he has some drop problems, as he has a career 8.9% drop rate, and in 2024, he had an 11% drop rate. That and his relative lack of explosiveness and yak ability are what prevent him from being a true elite wide receiver 1, but he's still really good in many ways and was one of the biggest reasons for Bo Nix's early success. Number 27, Jalen Waddle, Miami Dolphins. Waddle is coming off the worst season of his career in a year where it seemed like everything that could go wrong for the Miami Dolphins did go wrong, and pretty much everyone on that team had down years. In 15 games, Waddle caught 58 passes for 744 yards and 2 touchdowns, all career lows. He also had a career low in yards per route run. Waddle really struggled to produce in the games where Tua didn't play, and normally I wouldn't think anything of that, but in 2022, Waddle did produce when Tua didn't play. He even had a 123-yard game in Week 6 against the Vikings, so something's going on here. Waddle still has all of the speed and explosiveness in the world, but I feel like as defenses are adapting to the Mike McDaniel system and all of the speed on this team, Waddle has failed to adapt with them. Defenses are figuring out how to take away the explosive plays, and Waddle isn't adjusting as well as others. I'm not saying speed is his only weapon, he's not MVS, but he's not able to do other wide receiver things as well as even some of the guys lower on this list. Waddle is here at 27 because he is still one of the most explosive players in the league, and he did have 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons before 2024, but I think we're starting to realize that Waddle isn't much of a complete wide receiver, and he's going to have to prove he can be in order to climb back up this list. Number 26, George Pickens, Dallas Cowboys. Pickens often gets a lot of top 10 hype because of the absolutely insane catches he makes. And don't get me wrong, some of his plays are truly special and are a big reason why he's up here at 26. But from a down-to-down consistency standpoint, I don't think Pickens is close to a top 10 receiver. I think he's much more of a highlight reel guy rather than a consistent playmaker. In fact, he gets all this praise for having great hands and all that, but in reality, his catching ability is below average. Sure, he makes some crazy plays every so often, but in 2024, he had a 13.2% drop rate, which was 10th in the league, and he converted on just 37% of his contested catch looks, which was the second worst out of all receivers, with at least 25 contested catch opportunities. Pickens is also kind of a nutcase, so much that it's basically become a meme at this point, but he has been top 10 in penalties among wide receivers in both 2023 and 2024, which isn't good, but I don't want to just harp on the guy. He is a really good receiver. Pickens has produced quite well considering his lack of good quarterback play. He's a good route runner and does have some ridiculous highlight moments and makes some game-changing plays. I think that right now he's one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league. He's definitely not a true number 1 like many think, but next to CeeDee Lamb, he could have a big season. Number 25, Jordan Addison, Minnesota Vikings. Addison has quietly been one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league ever since he got drafted back in 2023, but no one really talks about him because he's behind Justin Jefferson. But Addison is really good, and I think we have to start with his touchdown production, which is absolutely insane. Addison has caught 19 touchdown passes in the first 2 seasons of his career, which is tied for the 12th most of all time and tied for the 2nd most among active wide receivers. In fact, Addison's 0.59 touchdowns per game is the 18th most all time among receivers who have played at least 30 games, and is the 4th most among active players, only behind Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, and Mike Evans. That is some elite company to be in. I think Addison has really learned a lot from Jefferson, as his route running and overall movement skills seem to mimic Jefferson's in a way, and Addison is really good at breaking off routes and getting open quickly. Also, despite being just 5'11", Addison plays like he's 6'2" and isn't afraid to go up and make tough catches in contact. His 58.8% contested catch rate in 2024 is really good for someone his size. So why is Addison at 25 when all I've done is praise him? Well, I just don't think Addison has had the yardage production to warrant him being any higher, as he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season yet, which, spoiler alert, everybody above him has. And while he is a super talented guy, he also has a few games every year where he'll just go silent and do absolutely absolutely nothing. He's had less than 30 yards in 9 out of his 33 games played. However, Addison is still one of the best wide receivers in the league, has shown he has the talent to be a number 1, and overall is a really good wide receiver. Number 24, DK Metcalf, Pittsburgh Steelers. Metcalf is one of the most physical, freak of nature, built-in lab players we have ever seen at the wide receiver position. He's 6'3", 230 pounds, around a 4.33 40-yard dash, and just look at him. But unfortunately, I don't think Metcalf has been nearly as good as he probably should be. It feels like sometimes he forgets that he's bigger and stronger than 95% of the cornerbacks in the league. Because of his size and the fact that he's just such a tough matchup for most corners, Metcalf gets a lot of contested catch opportunities. He's been top 5 the past 3 seasons, but he just doesn't convert on them the way he should. Over the past 3 seasons, he's converted on just 38.6% of his contested catch opportunities, which just isn't good. He also runs a very limited route tree and is frankly just not that good of a route runner. However, when he realizes just how much bigger and stronger he is than everyone else, and it doesn't happen as often as it should, but when he realizes it, he is a top 10 receiver in the league. There will be stretches where he just takes over games. There was a 3-game stretch in 2024 where he had 3 straight 100+ yard games, totaling 337 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a couple games in 2023 and 2024 where he took over, including a 149-yard game in 2022 against the Lions and a 134-yard 3-touchdown game in 2023 against the Cowboys. DK has the ability to play like this all the time, but he can't consistently do it, and that's why he ranks here at 24. Number 23, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks were comfortable trading DK away, and that's because of the emergence of Smith-Njigba, who broke out in his second season, catching exactly 100 passes for 1,113 yards and 6 touchdowns. He also had just a 2% drop rate on the season, which is incredible. All of this was much improved from his rookie season, where many considered him to be a disappointment, but he definitely did not disappoint in 2024. Njigba did most of his work from the slot, where he played 83.6% of his snaps, and there were just not many slot corners, linebackers, or safeties that could consistently guard him. His breakout game definitely came in week 9 against the Rams, where he caught 7 passes for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was one of the best overall receiving performances of the season. Njigba has firmly entered the conversation of who is the best slot receiver behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, and is overall a really good player. Number 22, Ladd McConkey, Los Angeles Chargers. Trying to decide between McConkey and Njigba was super tough, but McConkey had just a bit more production and also had an insane playoff game that I'm going to get to, so that's why I ultimately decided to rank McConkey higher by 1 spot. Just like Njigba, McConkey also did most of his work from the slot, and in his rookie season caught 82 passes for 1,149 yards and 7 touchdowns. He had the 3rd most yards and receptions among rookie receivers and was tied for the 4th most touchdowns. But McConkey's best game didn't come in the regular season, but in the playoffs. As in the Chargers wildcard game against the Texans, McConkey caught 9 passes for 197 yards and a touchdown. He had an insane 5.32 yards per route run in that game, and also converted on 2 of his 3 contested catch opportunities. It was a true wide receiver 1 level performance that really showcased every bit of talent McConkey has. I praise Xavier Worthy for having an incredible playoff performance, and that's why he ranked on the top 50 despite a bit of a lackluster rookie season. Both McConkey's playoff performance and his great regular season, I had to list him here at 22 despite only playing 1 season. McConkey has seemed like a slam dunk 2nd round pick, and I'm super excited to see what he and Justin Herbert can do in the coming years. Number 21, Chris Olave, New Orleans Saints. Olave has been a super good receiver ever since getting drafted 12th overall in 2022, but he ranks lower due to very serious injury concerns. Olave has suffered 4 concussions in his 3 NFL seasons, and even missed the entire second half of the 2024 season because of it. That is incredibly concerning, because it's a real possibility that he could choose to be or forced to retire if he suffers another serious head injury. Just like with Tua, the concerns are absolutely there. But from a pure talent perspective, Olave is really good. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2022 and 2023, and if we exclude the 2 games where he played less than 5 receiving snaps, he was on pace for another 1,000-yard season in 2024. He's a really good route runner, contested catcher, and also hasn't shown any drop problems in his career. If Olave didn't have these question marks about his health, he would definitely be higher on the list, but even with those, he still comes in pretty high at 21. Number 20, Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Godwin has been one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league ever since he broke out back in 2019, though 2024 was in many ways his best season yet. Well, it would have been his best season yet had he not suffered a season-ending injury in Week 7. In the 7 games he did play, Godwin put up 576 yards and 5 touchdowns, putting him on pace for a career-high 1,400-yard, 12-touchdown season. He had career highs in reception percentage and yards per route run, and he also didn't have a single drop on 60 targets. However, Godwin is approaching 30 years old, and coming off a serious injury, it's hard to tell if he's going to be the same player or not. But overall, Godwin is a fantastic wide receiver too, and many teams would be ecstatic if he was their number 1. Number 19, Garrett Wilson, New York Jets. The Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2024, Wilson has always produced at a very high level, despite some pretty bad quarterback play. In his first 2 seasons, he put up 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons, despite his quarterback play being a revolving door of shit, ass, and more shit. Once he finally got somewhat competent QB play in the form of a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, Wilson put up the best season of his career, catching 101 passes for 1,104 yards and 7 touchdowns, all career highs. He also had by far his best season as a contested catcher, converting on 51.7% of his contested catch opportunities, compared to just 35.9% and 29.7% in 2022 and 2023. And of course, we can't forget about his insane one-handed catch against the Texans. I do think his production was kind of limited because the Jets brought Davante Adams in, who immediately became their number 1, but overall, Wilson is still very talented. He's back to being the Jets wide receiver 1, and if there's any hope for their passing game, then Wilson is it. Number 18, Devonta Smith, Philadelphia Eagles. There's no question Devonta Smith is one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league, and would be the number 1 on at least half of all NFL teams. But even as a number 2 behind AJ Brown, Smith has been really good. He had 2 1,000-yard seasons in 2022 and 2023, and would likely have a third in 2024 if a couple small injuries didn't force him to miss 4 games. In the 13 games he did play though, Smith caught 68 passes for 833 yards and a career-high 8 touchdowns. He also had a career high in yards per route run. Just like I said about Jordan Addison, Smith plays like he's a lot bigger than he actually is. He's not afraid to take hits and go up and make tough catches. He's also super explosive and tough to catch in the open field. Smith also has always stepped up in the playoffs, especially in the Super Bowl, where in his 2 Super Bowls, he has a combined total of 169 yards and a touchdown. Smith is a huge part of this Eagles offense, and they wouldn't be where they are without him. Number 17, T. Higgins, Cincinnati Bengals. Higgins versus Smith was really close, but I ultimately decided to put Higgins just above Smith on the list. Both are excellent wide receiver 2s for their respective teams, but I think Higgins is just a bit better right now. He has unfortunately dealt with some injuries the past 2 seasons, but when he's on the field, he is amazing. In 2024, Higgins put up 73 receptions for 911 yards and a career-high 10 touchdowns in 12 games played. In a 17-game season, that equates to 103 receptions for 1,290 yards and 14 touchdowns, all of which would have been career highs. Higgins also had a career low 2.7% drop rate in 2024, along with a pretty respectable 46.7% contested catch rate. Higgins is overall one of the best true X receivers in the entire league, is a great compliment to Jamar Chase, and there's a reason the Bengals made sure to bring him back on a big extension. Number 16, DJ Moore, Chicago Bears. Moore had one of his more inefficient seasons in 2024 from a production standpoint, but I don't really think of him any less than I did prior to the season. In 2023, he had the best season of his career, putting up 1,364 yards and 8 touchdowns. It felt like he really formed a connection with Justin Fields, but wasn't quite able to do that with Caleb Williams, and that led to him having just 966 yards and 6 touchdowns in 2024. That, and also the fact that the Bears had a crowded wide receiver room and awful offensive coaching. But I still think Moore is really good and is a true wide receiver 1 level talent. Not elite or anything, but someone you are perfectly happy with as your number 1. He's really good with the ball in his hands. He has always been one of the better yards after catch threats in the league. He also has super reliable hands, just a 3% drop rate in 2024. With another year to work with Williams, I think Moore could easily have a 1,000-yard season in 2025 and be a super dangerous weapon for this Bears offense. Number 15, Brandon Ayuk, San Francisco 49ers. Ayuk is really tough to rank because in 2023, he was one of the best receivers in the league, putting up 1,342 yards and 7 touchdowns. But in 2024, after getting his mega contract extension, things weren't so good, as Ayuk played just 7 7 games before tearing his ACL and MCL, ending his season. And in those 7 games played, he wasn't great, putting up just 374 yards and 0 touchdowns. And while that isn't awful production, we have to remember that 40% of Aiyuk's yards came in one game against the Cardinals, where he had 147 yards. He didn't have a single other game with 50 yards or more. He also had a 10.7% drop rate, by far the highest of his career. Aiyuk frankly just wasn't all that good in 2024, and that's what makes him difficult to rank, because he was so dominant in 2023. That and the fact that we just have no idea how Aiyuk is going to play after his injury. I'm kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt, and I think there's a decent chance he returns to 2023 form, but we just don't know. Number 14, Malik Nabers, New York Giants. If the Giants offense was going to have any semblance of success in 2024, Nabers would have to step up and be a true wide receiver 1 in his rookie year, and he did just that and even more, having an incredible rookie season. Nabers caught 109 passes, which led all rookies, for 1,204 yards and 7 touchdowns. He finished 3rd out of all receivers in receptions and 7th in yards. He also finished with the 9th highest PFF grade at 86.7, and he did all of this with a revolving shithouse of quarterbacks including Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, and Tim Boyle. Nabers was one of the most explosive receivers in college football, and he brought that to the NFL. He is so quick and just moves differently. Most corners could not guard him one-on-one, and he torched the ones that tried. Nabers was absolutely incredible as a rookie, and I feel very confident putting him inside the top 15. Number 13, Brian Thomas Jr., Jacksonville Jaguars. Malik Nabers was awesome as a rookie, but I think Brian Thomas was just a bit better. And yes, I do think Thomas was the best rookie receiver last season. Thomas caught 87 passes for 1,282 yards and 10 touchdowns as a rookie. He finished 2nd among rookie wide receivers in receptions and 1st in yards and touchdowns. He actually finished 3rd in the entire league in receiving yards, only behind Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Compared to Malik Nabers, Thomas just outproduced him in every way. He had a better drop rate, contested catch rate, more yards per route run, more yards after the catch, all of it. This isn't at all a slight to Nabers, it just shows how good Thomas really was. And he dealt with his fair share of quarterback problems, as he had Mac Jones under center for half the season, which obviously isn't ideal. Thomas is legitimately one of the fastest receivers in the league and can take the top off the defense at any play. Just like Nabers, he was absolutely incredible as a rookie, and I think both LSU receivers are going to be superstars in the NFL for a long time. Number 12, Drake London, Atlanta Falcons. London has always been a good receiver, but after finally being freed from Arthur Smith and getting some halfway decent quarterback play, London broke out, catching 100 passes for 1,271 yards and 9 touchdowns. He finished 7th out of all receivers in receptions and 4th in yards. He also had just a 4.8% drop rate, continuing a streak of having less than a 5% drop rate every year of his career. And he also converted on a career high 57.9% of his contested catch opportunities, going 22 for 38. He was 3rd in the league in contested catch opportunities and did not disappoint. He also seems to have developed a really strong connection with Michael Penix, as in the 3 games they played together, London put up 352 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 187-yard game against the Panthers in Week 18. London has established himself as one of the best X receivers in the entire league, and should be a dominant force on the outside for a long while. Number 11, Davante Adams, Los Angeles Rams. Adams is the best wide receiver 2 in the league, and I don't think it's particularly close. He would be a wide receiver 1 on about 3/4 of the teams in the NFL, so the fact that the Rams have him as a number 2 is diabolical. Adams is coming off a season where he had 1,063 yards, the lowest since 2019, but he did miss a couple games due to injury and also started the season on the Raiders, so yeah. And while it's obvious that Adams isn't quite the same player he was a couple years ago, I still think he's one of the best route runners in the NFL, and he's also showed glimpses of that 2022 form, particularly with his 198-yard, 2-touchdown game against the Jaguars. Now that he won't have to consistently face number 1 corners every week, I think Adams could have a monster season in LA with Matthew Stafford. Number 10, Terry McLaurin, Washington Commanders. McLaurin has always been underrated, but his lack of any real quarterback play has held him back a bit. Now that he finally got a quarterback that knows how to throw a football, he had the best season of his career, catching 82 passes for 1,096 yards and 13 touchdowns. He also had an insane 70.6% contested catch rate, which was 5th in the league and by far the highest out of anyone with at least 20 contested catch opportunities. He was also really good in the playoffs, putting up 227 yards and 3 touchdowns in his 3 playoff games. McLaurin has absolutely emerged as one of the best receivers in the league and is worthy of a spot in the top 10. Number 9, Tyreek Hill, Miami Dolphins. Prior to the 2024 season, Hill was talked about as arguably the best receiver in the league as he was coming off a dominant 1,800-yard, 13-touchdown season. But in 2024, he was not the same as he finished the season with just 958 yards and 6 touchdowns. He had the lowest yards per reception since his rookie season and had by far the lowest yards per route run of his career. He just wasn't the same player. He only had 3 100-plus yards games in 2024 compared to 8 in 2023. He barely produced in the games where Tua didn't play compared to 2022 where he actually did produce quite well. Just like many players on the Dolphins, Hill had a down year, and that's what pushes him down to 9 on this list. Being now 31 years old, I don't think he quite has the speed he used to. He's obviously still one of the fastest, most explosive players in the league, but it's not like it was in 2022 and 2023 when he was so dominant. I still think Hill is a fantastic receiver, but he's not top 5 anymore. Number 8, Nico Collins, Houston Texans. Collins broke out alongside CJ Stroud in 2023, and in 2024, he was arguably better. He did miss a bit of time in the middle of the season, but in the 12 games he did play, Collins got 68 passes for 1,006 yards and 7 touchdowns. If he had played all 17 games, Collins likely would have set career highs in those stats. Collins had the second highest PFF grade among all receivers at 91.6, and he was still dominant despite the Texans' offense having its fair share of struggles, mostly due to the O-line. Collins has officially emerged as a top X receiver in the NFL. He is absolutely dominant when out there, and he and Stroud should be one of the best QB wide receiver duos for a long time. Number 7, Mike Evans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you look up the definition of consistency in a Merriam-Webster dictionary, Mike Evans' name pops up. 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Every single year he's been in the league, no matter the quarterback, he has had a 1,000-yard season. And despite missing 3 games this season, Evans did it again, putting up 1,004 yards and 11 touchdowns. Those 11 touchdowns being 4th in the league among receivers. He actually put up a career-high 2.41 yards per route run, which is impressive at nearly 32 years old. There's not much really else to say here. Evans has been and still is the best true X receiver in the league and the poster boy for consistently great production. Number 6, Puka Nacua, Los Angeles Rams. One of the best stories of recent years, Nacua was a 5th round pick in 2023, but emerged as the best receiver from that class, putting up 1,486 yards and 6 touchdowns in his rookie year. He looked to build off that in 2024, but unfortunately an early season injury caused him to miss 6 games. But when he was on the field, Nacua was one of the best receivers in the league, as he got 79 passes for 990 yards and 3 touchdowns in just 11 games. He averaged 90 yards per game, which would have given him 1,530 yards if he played all 17 games. He had an insane 3.56 yards per route run, which led the entire NFL, and he had the highest PFF grade among receivers at 92.8. Nacua also managed to cut down his drop rate from 11% in 2023 to just 3.7% in 2024, a huge upgrade. Overall, Nacua is right on the brink of being a top 5 receiver, and he's likely going to be one of the best for a long time. Number 5, CeeDee Lamb, Dallas Cowboys. We have entered the top 5 now. Every single one of these guys are true elite number 1 wide receivers, starting with CeeDee Lamb, who didn't quite have the season he had in 2023, but was still really good. In 2023, Lamb put up 1,749 yards and 12 touchdowns, but in 2024, that dropped to 1,194 yards and 6 touchdowns. He also did have a 9.8% drop rate, which isn't great. However, he didn't play the final 2 games of the season, and he also dealt with Cooper Rush as his quarterback for half the year, so I still think these numbers are pretty impressive. Lamb has been and still is unguardable in man coverage. His route running is elite, and he has always been really good in contested catch situations. Lamb has been top 5 in yards per route run versus man coverage the past 2 seasons, and if you leave him in single coverage, you are going to get toasted. Lamb is truly a special player and is a great start to the top 5. Number 4, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Detroit Lions. Amon-Ra is the best slot receiver in the league, bar none, and has been for some time. He's put up 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons and is coming off a season where he caught 115 passes for 1,263 yards and a career-high 12 touchdowns. He finished 2nd out of all receivers in receptions, 5th in yards, and 3rd in touchdowns. Amon-Ra has always had elite hands, but he took it to the next level in 2024 as he had just 1 drop all season, a 0.9% drop rate. He also converted on a career-high 66.7% of his contested catch opportunities. Amon-Ra has never been the fastest guy or anything, but he's an elite route runner and is also great after the catch. There's no real weaknesses with Amon-Ra's game, and he's overall an absolutely amazing wide receiver. Number 3, AJ Brown, Philadelphia Eagles. Brown is one of the most difficult receivers to cover one-on-one, not just because of his route running prowess, but he is a physical freak and one of the strongest receivers in the league. Brown had 2 straight 1,400-yard seasons in his first years of Philadelphia, and likely would have had a third if he didn't miss 4 games at the beginning of the season. But in the 13 games he did play, Brown got 67 passes for 1,079 yards and 7 touchdowns. He didn't have a single drop all season, which obviously is amazing, and he had a career-high 60% contested catch rate. He also set career highs in reception percentage and yards per route run. Brown has been one of the most dominant receivers in the league for the past 3 seasons now, and I think it's pretty obvious that the Titans really regret trading him away. Number 2, Ja'Marr Chase, Cincinnati Bengals. Here we have the Triple Crown winner from 2024. Chase had an absolutely incredible 2024 season, catching 127 passes for 1,708 yards and 17 touchdowns. The connection with him and Joe Burrow has always been elite, but it was on another level this season. Chase had some ridiculous games, including a 177-yard, 2-touchdown game against the Cowboys in Week 14, a 193-yard, 2-touchdown game against the Ravens in Week 5, and a 264-yard, 3-touchdown game also against the Ravens in Week 10. Chase was always around a top 5 to 7 receiver, but after last season, he firmly planted himself as the second best receiver in the entire NFL, but there is still one guy above him. Number 1, Justin Jefferson, Minnesota Vikings. In my opinion, Jefferson has been the best receiver in the league ever since that incredible 2022 season, and he was dominant yet again this year, despite having a new quarterback. Jefferson caught 103 passes for 1,533 yards and 10 touchdowns, finishing 4th in receptions, 2nd in yards, and tied for 5th in touchdowns. While Chase had the better raw numbers in 2024, many advanced metrics leaned Jefferson's way. He had more yards per route run, more yards per reception, a better drop rate, and a better contested catch rate than Chase. Also, Jefferson has been consistently a top 3 to 1 receiver for the last 3 seasons, while Chase only did that this year. Jefferson still has the most yards per game out of all receivers who have played at least 50 games in history, at 96.5, and also holds the all-time record for most receiving yards through a player's first 2 seasons, first 3 seasons, first 4 seasons, and first 5 seasons. In fact, he is the 7th most receiving yards all-time through a player's first 6 seasons, even though he's only played 5. Jefferson is a true Hall of Fame level talent that you just don't see all that often, and I believe that right now, he is the best receiver in the entire NFL. That's it. Those are my top 50 wide receivers heading into the 2025 season. Or do you agree? Or do you disagree? Comment below. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop a like and subscribe if you're new, and that's it for me. See ya.